Welcome to the action. My name is Trifium, and of course, joining me this evening for the Americas Tier 2 Racing Division is my good man, Mikau. How are you doing ahead of Spain this evening?
Oh man, it feels good to be back in the commentary booth once again. Yes, Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, a very classic track has become for the Formula One calendar. We're nearing the business end of the season as well, so it's going to be a very interesting race. I feel. As you can see, there's a track there on screen: 2.8 miles, 4.6 kilometers, 16 turns, 2 DRS zones to help with some overtaking to turns 1 and 10. And that technical final sector is going to be tricky for the drivers to navigate, as well as the the large amount of understeer through the first sector.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt, and it's a very fun circuit to watch the drivers race around as well. I thoroughly enjoy this circuit, both on track and off track, watching as a spectator. Now we have 3 rounds following today's racing action. Next week we head on over. You said really we're towards that business end of the season. I mean, realistically, from start to finish, it is the business end, but it is really now crunch time as we come through to the final 3 rounds. Not too much unlike the real Formula One season, Nick, but of course we have Austria next week, following that Mexico, where we've already been in the real Formula One season, as well as for our finale, Brazil, where we just went yesterday in reality. Now, we absolutely love to see the calendar somewhat sync up a little bit with the real world, and of course, if you're interested in seeing any of that, you can find our endurance series. But with that said, Mikau, it's time to get into the serious stuff, and that is, of course, the standings here for this America's Tier 2 division. Things are tight between Diego Surf and Johnny Disco up at the top. Vlad Putin not out of it either, and you can see all throughout the midfield a lot of drivers tight up in the points, looking to do some damage today here in round 12.
I mean, even still, that's a healthy lead at this stage of the championship. 24 points. It's not going to be easy to come by in 3 races. If you think about the difference between first and second is 7, 8 if the winner gets fastest lap as well. So basically, the X-Surf just has to keep putting in the solid performances, and if he takes one more race win, he basically puts one hand on that winner's trophy. And it's clear skies here in Barcelona for qualifying, which is always lovely to see. And 20 drivers as well, so a full grid, and it's going to really start to heat up very soon. As I'm sure Hennes is very keen to get out there as soon as possible.
As you said, Mick, 20 drivers on the grid. Hanners at the top of our present timing tower there in the Williams. Second behind him on the timing tower, we have Gazieg in the Haas. Following that, Diego Surf for Alfa Romeo, Captain Minor for Mercedes, combined YouTuber, another Australian, of course, a fellow countryman of yours there in the partnering Alfa Romeo. In 5th on the timing tower, we have Victor Diaz in the McLaren here with us today, as well as Hello, I'm Hacker, LAS1, the 2 Aston Martins on grid. We have Larkin for Mercedes, as well as Chiri for Alpine. Then we have Sidewinder, Vlad Putin, the 2 Red Bulls with us today. With that said, LAS1 will be the first driver to get out on to the circuit in the Aston Martin. And then, of course, back to Deng Wu in the other Alpine. We have Wordad for Williams, Cattle King for Haas, Johnny Disco, of course, second in the championship presently in the McLaren, Paula Brady in the AlphaTauri. We have the 2 Ferraris of Graz and Florian, and then we have Jay Forsai rounding out the 20 racers for this evening, Mick.
I don't know if we've received a weather report on the race conditions, but it is a dry qualifying. We see a few drivers selecting the medium tires for their opening runs, which is quite interesting to see. Medium tires about 6.5 tenths slower on raw pace compared to the red striped softs, but softs tend to overheat quite easily around those long, fast corners, especially in the first 2 sectors. The LAS1, as you said, Aston Martin, first out there on track, followed by Johnny Disco. He's the second car out there. Johnny opting for a soft tire for his banker run, so we'll see what if tire strategy comes into its drift.
Looking at the chat right now, looking to see if there were any weathermen, and of course we have Mr. Gazieg as well as Polypunt coming through into the chat, confirming that we do have a wet campaign upon us as LAS1 begins his fly into turn 1. And of course, we'll see how he goes through and navigates this first sector of this circuit, keeping things tight to the inside, curving through 3 and rolling it to the outside. Kind of keeping center circuit here, coming into turn 4, trying to bring it through to that inside, curving through 4, and then, well, we'll see him push through into the left-hander at turn 5 now. This is the first run of the evening, and this dry qualifying is going to be absolutely critical as we have a wet race coming ahead. As to whether or not it will be an intermediate or full wet campaign, yet to be determined. That is something that we have not really seen, and well, we've really seen a lot of different rain conditions through this season, Mick, especially, absolutely most especially in this Tier 2 Americas division. They have seen it all. So we'll just have to see how they navigate it here in round 12.
With it being a wet race, it makes qualifying just that much more important, as we have one of the Williams cars spinning around at turn 3. The LAS1 coming across the final corner now. It looks like it's been a decent lap, but definitely a lot of time left on the table. 1:18.0 to start us off as Johnny Disco, of course, gunning for that championship, comes around the final corner and goes 2 seconds faster than that Striff with the 1:16.1. So a very nice opening time from the McLaren driver, but I'm sure that he's going to want it to improve on that as the track starts to rubber in.
Raz coming through at 17.014. More drivers coming through. There goes Cattle King, third quickest here, 17.256. Henner's beginning a lap behind him.
Just right on board briefly with the Williams. Of course, one of the OGs of the Misfits Racing League here, I believe since season 1. As he goes, a little bit of tank slapper, does tap the wall.
Ooh, a little bit of a curse there.
Yeah, he's knocked off that right side end plate, so that's going to be his first lap ruined. And that really plays with you mentally in these qualifying sessions, especially in one that's so important at a track like Spain for a wet race, because overtaking is next to impossible when the clouds start to open up. So AlphaTauri is getting past the Williams car to have a few more times on the board. Vlad Butin, notably on those medium compound tires, 1:16.8, and his teammate Sidewinder on the softs at 16.9. So the two Red Bulls looking to be strong in the opening stages of qualifying.
It is an extremely busy circuit right now, Mick, and of course both Red Bulls coming through in and amongst all of that action there, and it was Vlad Butin, as you mentioned, on the mediums. This is very critical, and if you are any of the championship runners right now, Vlad Butin is third in this championship. If you're in that top 2, Vlad Butin has been there, like he has been closing the gap to these guys, not just in the standings but on track as well. He could very well be a threat here into the last 3 rounds, as we're here on the 4th of the last rounds in the season remaining.
Yeah, 4 races to go, including this one. So still in with a chance at it. Although considering how DXF has been performing all season long, it's going to take something quite special for the Red Bull driver to be able to mount a challenge for that top step. But of course, Johnny Disco will have to keep one eye behind him as well, especially with that opening time on the mediums. That is a pretty solid lap time. You know, take away around 6 to 7 tenths, maybe up to a second with the track Evo once he goes out on those fresh softs. And you're looking at a pretty tight fight for pole position at the moment.
Well, we've been watching DX Surf and Combined YouTuber for some time this season, run quite tight in the top margins of the grid, and we'll have to see what Combined YouTuber and DX Surf have. Right now, Combined YouTuber is the leading of the 2 Alfa Romeos on track, currently coming through Sector 2.
Yeah, I'm just watching our championship leader, DXF, sets a purple Sector 1. So he's off to a flying start. I mean, both Alfa Romeos have performed incredibly well over this season so far. Of course, both race winners and have been very, very solid in the Constructors' Championship as well, doing their bit for the team. And this looks like a very clean lap from DXF thus far as he goes into the final sector striff. Purple yet again.
Yeah, Purple following along with Combine there, and there's nobody else other than Captain Minor really on track, and Captain Minor will be coming into the pit lane. There goes Combined, second position. Dig Surf, is this good enough for pole position? He's coming through the final chicane, and it just might be. We'll have to see as he holds things tight to the curbs on the inside and exit to the line. He jumps Combined, but it's not good enough to get Johnny. And I mentioned they were running tight.
It wasn't a clean final sector. It wasn't a clean final sector. Had a little bit of a moment out of the exit of turn 12. And as well, he hopped that curb at turn 15 as well, which cost him at least 0.3 of a second strip. But he is right there with the front runners, and we have a really, really tight fight for that pole position. As Combined on his in-lap, takes a little spin at turn 7, unfortunately.
Victor Diaz showing flyer, as is Hello, I'm Hacker. Right now the McLaren of Victor coming through Sector 2.
Coming through that turn 7 and turn 8, as I was alluding to earlier. And then the flat-out blind right-hander of turn 9 is holding on for dear breath. I mean, in games gone by, particularly last game in F1 2020, that was a non-issue in the drive, but with the limited amount of high-speed grip, the car just wants to wash out wide. Either that or they just lose the rear end really easily with those rear tires overheating. But it looks like it's been a pretty decent lap from the McLaren driver thus far as he makes his way into that final chicane and avoiding that yellow curb on the inside. That's exactly how you want to take it. And what's the time going to be? It's 5th place. So not a bad showing. Only 200s between himself and Vlad Putin. And speaking of Vlad Putin, of course, he did set that 1:16.8 on the mediums. He's now out on soft compound tire strip, going to do the first sector split, and just purple. He's 0.3 up through the first sector alone.
Yeah, this is critical for him. The Canadian driver, having set that first run on the mediums, now really looking to show what he's capable of now that everybody is gearing up for what's supposed to be a wet campaign. Normally you'd see a little bit of tire strategy coming through here in a qualifying for Spain. Today, that qualifying strategy could very well just go out the window with the wet weather coming ahead. Vlad Putin right now on these soft compound tires is looking to go for pole if that medium run was anything to go by.
Looks like it's been a pretty good lap so far. He was about half a second up in his second sector split. And he absolutely nails that final chicane strip. This is going to be the first time into the 1 minute 15s. I'm positive of it. And it's to the line almost 1:16.126. So only half a tenth in it between himself and Johnny Disco. He was maybe hoping for a little bit more, but Johnny out there on an outlap and DX Surf not too far away either. So the top 3 in the championship, well, 1, 2, and 3 at the moment, but in reverse order as Wordad comes across the line to slot his Williams into a 4th place. So very nice showing from Wordad thus far.
Yeah, very solid run there from the Williams driver. His teammate Henner is yet to show a time onto this board today. Can't recall. I do believe... Was there a penalty advisory out for Henners right now? Can't remember. I might be mistaken.
Yeah, I'm not sure
I'm gonna double check
on that one. Not sure on that one. Is it Tennis, Gorziak, and Larkin yet to set times? Just under 7 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Misfits Racing League. My name is Mikhail from the land down under in Australia. Joining me is Stryfium on the cameras as well from Canada. This is round 12 of 15 for MRL Season 5. This is America's Tier 2. And those top 3 are the championship contenders. Everyone else, I do believe, is mathematically out of it. So, is those 3 to watch as the season draws nearer and nearer to its conclusion. And who will be crowned the champion? No one knows just yet. But DX Surf with a 24-point lead over Johnny Disco. Looking like he's in a very nice spot as he begins his second flying lap attempt, Striff.
Here comes Danglu to the line now. He's on the medium run again. He improves just a bit to jump Waffle. Now, I did check on Henry, and he is not serving any kind of penalty. And I was just jumping the gun. So he is on an outlap right now. Johnny Disco says hello with a 15.9 on the softs, Mikhail.
The time has been set. The bar has been set for the top three. That's about 4/10 DX needs to make up on his current flying lap. He takes turn 9 absolutely to perfection, just right on the limit, using all of the track that he can. But he's only 100th up through the second set to split, but he has a lot of time to find in that third and final set to strift. So let's see if he's able to nail it this time around.
Yeah, you dissected this sector last time
Oh, he's
around, and
gone
as we
wide.
mention it, oh, Mick, that is not how you want to find yourself. He's going to come straight in here, and he does not have a ton of time left in this session to get himself in with Johnny Disco and Vlad Putin at all. That is just not where you want to find yourself coming in through your second run.
Yeah, he really needed that time. He just, I don't know what it was, just got a little bit too trigger happy on the throttle coming through turns 12 and 13. And he had to correct, and that just set the car out wide. And unfortunately, those track limits at the exit of turn 13 are very, very strict. And that was all she wrote for the DX second run. So he still needs to find that 4/10 of a second to really contest for that pole position. And Johnny Disco is probably laughing at the moment. And that is a very nice time, actually, from the McLaren. But we'll see if Vlad Putin, who's currently on his outlap through turn 10, has anything to say about his drift.
Larkin jumping into 5th position here. The Mercedes is 16.567 for him. Henner's invalidated his run. Gauzieg, surprisingly enough, an absolute rarity coming out of the Haas driver. He is on a flyer. So hopefully we'll get to see a solid push coming from him. Well, let's ride along with the Haas now as he comes through pushing in turn 3.
A little bit conservative through turns 1 and 2. Of course, those curbs can be quite the challenge. Car just wants to wash out wide through turn 4. And is at the hairpin at turn 5. Gets decent drive out of the corner, Larkin. And then the inside at 6. Doesn't seem to deter the Haas driver too much. Just seems a bit tentative from the Haas car at the moment, Striff. He's keeping it nice and tidy, but maybe not pushing the car as much as other drivers on this grid.
It's a very competitive grid, Mikhail. I'm going to have to agree with you on that statement here. The Haas driver pushing through in Sector 3. Now, this is critical. This is where we saw Dieg Surf have issues, and now good for Gauzieg. Run things tight into the circuit, not to the outside. Now he's going to come through to the final chicane. He keeps the tire just ever so slightly off, more on circuit there. I'm actually kind of shocked that he didn't invalidate, but he does get a time on the board. It's an 18.498 from Gauzieg. 19th position, Henner's the only other driver beneath him right now in this time tire, and he has yet to set a time.
One of the Aston Martins going slowly at the exit of turn 3, just hell on Hacker. Just trying to get out of the way of all the oncoming cars. But 2.5 minutes left in the session's drift. Johnny Disco is out there on an outlap. And Vlad Putin looks like he has just started another flying lap attempt. Had to back out of his previous one. But still only one driver in the 1 minute 15s, and that is our pole sitter thus far, Johnny Disco, in his attempt to close that gap to DX Surf as much as he can.
Well, as things stand, he's in a brilliant position to do so, I have to say. Vlad Putin right now, I want to see his split coming through into Sector 3 because he was not improving a moment ago. And this, ooh, that was a very, very big wobble coming out of him. Little bit of traffic in front of him, pulling aside at Hello I'm Hacker, as well as, I think that might have been a Williams.
Johnny Disco as well. Getting in the way. He's on low fuel mode, keeps it just within the limits. He was up 600s, but hopefully that traffic didn't distract him too much. He nails the chicane once again, gets absolutely amazing drive out of the final corner, but the tires are screaming at this point in the lap. Is it going to be enough? No, it's not. He improves by 1/10 of a second, but it isn't quite enough, and it's still a 1.5 advantage to the McLaren of Johnny Disco.
Burdett off on the gravel just ahead of turn 3, and a number of drivers pushing the car.
And Johnny
right now.
is done. Johnny is done. He invalidated at turn 2, so 1:15.9 is all that he can hope for now. DX Surf has just started his lap with 45 seconds left on the clock. And all eyes are going to be on this Alfa Romeo. If he starts this race in third, and if it's a full wet campaign, like has been said earlier in the session, this could really be a championship-defining qualifying session, Striff.
Absolutely, without a doubt. The Egg Surf 16311 is where he is looking to improve. Where does he find himself on this run as we come through Sector 2 right now? Pushing with everything he's got. The Sauber Alfa Romeo, the Egg Surf, our championship leader, Mikkel. This is his last shot at pole. This is a critical lap, beyond critical lap, as Johnny Disco, his rival, is sitting at that top spot right now, pushing through into turn 10, giving it everything he's got. Purple through Sector 2, that is massive.
Yeah, but it's all in this final set, this Striff. He keeps it within the bounds. It looks pretty tidy. Just one more braking zone to go is the chicane. He absolutely nails it, keeps it just within the track limits. This could be on for pole. The time is ticking. What is the lap time going to be? It's close, but it's not close enough. Half a tenth in it. No, the second driver to go into the 1:15s, but it's not quite enough. So
Very
Johnny
tight.
Disco is going to be your pole man.
That is a very good lap coming out of Johnny Disco, most especially considering he did not get that final run in. Henners goes fourth quickest here with his one-shot qualifying attempt, and that is a very good time to find himself just in front of his teammate Wordad. It's the Canadian of Mr. Vlad Patin rounding out the top three here for the qualifying here so far. Unless anyone else has something to say about it, we still have a couple of drivers on laps,
we have a traffic jam at turn 9. We have a massive traffic jam at turn 9 as I think Vlad's AI car has run out of fuel and it's just sitting there on the racing line. So all those drivers behind him, their laps are ruined. And Victor Diaz actually is going to pick up a 5-place grid penalty for illegal blocking.
How on earth has that happened? This must be something new.
Certainly is an odd one.
What the heck?
I think Park Ferme has just moved to the apex at turn 9, Striff. So that's certainly what it looks like. As Captain Miner's AI had an insane overtake, quadruple overtake around the outside. Just wait for Cattle King's pass to be wheeled in, and then we will get the qualifying results. But that is really unfortunate for Victor Diaz to get hit with that 5-place grid penalty. Unfortunately, there isn't a whole lot we can do about it right now. So he's just going to have to make the most of a bad situation. But it is Johnny Disco, the runner-up man, on pole position by half a tenth Striff ahead of his championship rival.
Yeah, that's a very, very tight qualifying. If you're in a championship battle between your rival, it's not unlike something we've seen recently in reality. Of course, Johnny Disco in the McLaren, Diego Surf in the Alfa Romeo. It is less than a tenth the separation between the two Americans, and it is, well, Johnny, who is behind Diego Surf in this championship. So, well, Diego Surf wanting to get out in front of him as much as humanly possible. With that, well, it's going to be an extraordinarily fun and action-packed race. And the fact that we do have a dynamic weather forecast ahead of us.
Also keen to note that Cherry in his home race, P8 for the Alpine squad, not a bad qualifying. I do believe, there we go, we see some light rain, so we should be on the intermediate tyres for this race start. But yeah, the two Williams cars actually doing very well as well in 4th and 5th, and is ahead of Wordad, as well as the two Mercedes both getting themselves into the top 10 as well. So a lot of pace in this grid, Striff, but of course all eyes will be on that fight for the first position. And we have our two championship contenders, first and second, lining up on that front row. It's Max v. Lewis all over again, but let's see who will get the better jump into turn 1, which is really, really important because overtaking is going to be extremely hard to pull off around this track.
Now, I do believe this is, and someone may be able to stat check this or fact check this in whatever capacity, I do believe this is our 7th out of 12 weather-affected campaigns here in the Tier 2 Americas division, as we have had a number of different scenarios, whether it be in qualifying and or the race for this division. But of course, once again, Johnny Disco is of course our pole sitter ahead of the championship leader. Again, I say ahead of the championship leader, Mr. Dieg Surf, and that is Johnny Disco, the runner-up in this season 5 championship right now for this division title. Vlad Putin is third in this championship. He is threatening these two guys at every opportunity. Henners,
Ooh.
4th position for him. Wordad in 5th, starting this grid. And it appears
We
Mikkel.
had a spin and a crash on the formation lap strip. That is combined YouTuber and Sidewinder both coming together. Combined had a little bit of a slip through turn 4, and the Red Bull just had nowhere to go. So unfortunate for those two. I mean, combined, he's going to really need to be there to help his teammate out in that fight for the championship. Sidewinder as well, of course, teammate of Vlad Putin. And Victor Diaz, the teammate of Johnny Disco, down in 15th.
Well, it's going to be an extremely fun race with all of these racers with us on this grid in these wet conditions. I mentioned it in qualifying, Mikkel. If there's any grid that is prepared for wet conditions, it is this grid, as this will be, again, I mentioned it. They have seen the rain many times this season. This race, they're prepared for it. If they were prepared for Spain, they're prepared for rain. And I think Jay Versailles right now, sitting on the rear of Gazieg in this formation lap. I don't know how Gazieg got up all that way.
Yeah, had a couple of spins as well. Jay Versailles having a spin at, I believe, was turn 7. So that's already a couple of drivers struggling in the formation
Jay
lap.
Versailles had an issue, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of drivers already having a few slip-ups in these slippery conditions, but as Jay takes his grid slot, he'll be the last one to line up. And I think we are about to see 33 laps of intense racing action strip. It is 3, 4, 5 red lights here at Barcelona. The lights go out and away they go. And it looks like a pretty good start from Johnny Disco. A pretty poor start from Vlad Putin. He spins off into the grass and he's out of the race. Oh no, out of the race. Red Bull. The Williams of Wordad getting caught up in as well. We have a virtual safety car on lap 1.
Truly, that's upgraded to a full, and it is. That was massive. Vlad Putin, our 3rd position championship runner, is out of this race. Wordad with no wing.
That's it. That is it. That is Vlad Putin. Unless Johnny and DXF both don't score points, that is Vlad Putin's chances. Mathematically, after this race, if things stay as they are, or Johnny and DXF both have pretty decent results, that is Vlad Putin out of the running for this championship. He can no longer get that P1 place, and yeah, just got a bit too eager on the throttle, and Wordad unfortunately had nowhere to go. It was either into the Red Bull or into the grass, and he picked both of them and still came out without a front wing. But fortunately for him,
Johnny Disco and Dieg Surf. Well, Johnny Disco, ladies and gentlemen, has maintained himself in lead of this race. However, Dieg Surf, who started on the front row, now has a company in the form of Henners, who has taken that front row slot away from him.
Yeah, that's crucial for the McLaren to get a car between himself and Dieg Surf. And if things finish as they are, Johnny will close that 24-point gap by 10 points. Which is a pretty big chunk, if you ask me.
What
biggest winner though? Biggest winner though, it is actually Victor Diaz. He's up 4 spots into 11. So never mind that 5-place grid drop that he got.
What 5-place grid drop exactly?
Yeah, what?
He's completely.
Oh, word! A waffle. Waffles crashed at the last corner.
Oh no. Well, he had no front wing coming through there. These conditions. Very unfortunate. Unclear as to what happened.
What it looks like, just based on the position of that Ferrari, is that he tried to make his way into the pits, but just understeered straight into the pit median. Might get a confirmation from him in the chat. But this full safety car does allow Word out to not only fix his front wing, but also serve that 5 seconds that he got under the virtual safety car while all the calamity was going on.
Yeah, anybody with a front wing that's in bad shape right now, really going to be happy with this opportunity, and that was undoubtedly Word at, considering he had no front wing left. I mean, Wafflorian was in that same position, but, well, he's in a worse off position now.
Yeah, pack up and go home for both Viperton and Waffle Orient. They're both their races cut extremely short. But back to the action, track position, so crucial in these tricky conditions. And DX-Surf unfortunately has lost out. Another driver to lose out was Cheery, down into 10th place. So not the start that the Spaniard was looking for. And of course, Word Dad down 13 spots. But everyone else has made a couple of positions. The only two to keep their starting places, of course, Johnny Disco in P1 and Graz in the Ferrari in 14th.
Henner is a driver who has really lucked out on a lot of these wet race starts this season. My mind goes to Russia. If my mind and my memory serves correct, he had an absolute rocket launch at the start of that race in Russia. And that was a slick condition race. We're seeing very good prowess from Henry in these slick conditions, without a doubt. And right now, if I'm Johnny Disco, I'm worried.
Yeah, this restart is going to be crucial for the McLaren because he needs to keep Henry between the two of them. He can't let Henry challenge him into this first corner, and likewise, DX-Surf needs to get past this Williams as soon as humanly possible to just be able to stay with the leader of Johnny Disco. And that'll be where the race is won or lost, I do believe.
Really, we'll be going back to green flag racing on lap 4 as we follow the safety car up through sector 2. Johnny Disco, Henner's, DX-Surf the top 3 right now. Henner's making up 2 slots from 4th, DX-Surf dropping back 1 from this front row, and it is, of course, now race control confirming the safety car is on the way in. Larkin, Captain Minor, 5-6 for the Mercs on the rear of the Alphas. Very good formation for them, considering they've both made up some positions, and especially Larkin up 3.
Yeah, the two Mercedes doing very well off the start of things to avoid the calamities. But all eyes are going to be on this McLaren, and when he decides to go, of course, these very cold intermediate tires are going to have next to zero grip, and it is very easy to get too eager on the throttle through this final corner, but it looks like he's taking it nice and steady. And he's away, and looks like Henry has gone directly with them. We are green flag racing once again, stripping him. And look at that, the slipstream from Henry. Not quite close enough, but who is close enough? That is Larkin looking up the inside of Combined. YouTuber into the first corner. Can't quite get late enough on the brakes. A little bit twitchy as well from the Mercedes coming through, but it looks like going down the rest of this field, things are looking quite
Combined's had an issue.
quite
Larkin's
tame.
got through, but Larkin goes wide on the exit of 3, and here goes Combined back through into 4th, and Captain Minor couldn't do anything about it. He watched all of it unfold. He watched his teammate overtake Combined. Then he watched his teammate lose the position. In these slick conditions right now, the spray for him really presenting a potential issue. The temperature on these tires, they're not getting any heat in them just yet.
Yeah, a little slide there from Captain Minor as he tries to chase down his teammate. But all the cars within 1 second of each other. Of course, no DRS in these wet conditions. Nevertheless, that slipstream is going to be so crucial as this race develops. And Henry is doing very well to stick on the back of Johnny Disco. About 3/10 was the gap going into the final sector, but that dirty air through this technical part of the lap, Johnny is extending that gap now 8/10, about to be 9/10 And that could really open the door for DXF to use that slipstream, use that ERS as well to try and slingshot past. But we have a yellow flag. That's Larkin. That's both Mercedes into the gravel. Mercedes in the mud strip. And both of them are falling down this order, trying to rejoin the track in the safest way possible. They were running 5th and 6th, I do believe, and now they're running Lamas.
Gazieg with the double overtake of his career right there, Mikal. As both the Mercs, as you mentioned, in the mud.
Meanwhile, Graz in this fight for 11th place has the slipstream, looks up the inside into turn 4. Jay leaves the room, but can Graz get the purchase in those rear tires? He's trying, he's done very well to keep that car under control, but Jay inside of 5 defends that position. But it's not over yet, Striff. It's not over yet. Both of them getting pretty decent exits, but there's just no way past for the Ferrari just yet.
Very tight battle between this Ferrari and AlphaTauri. Right now the two Scuderia squads fighting it out. Favorite under threat right now. The Ferrari looking to the inside as we come into 10 right now. A big lockup through and on the wet surface for Graz, holding that inside still through. Back through to the inside for Jay. Graz makes it through into 11th position. Does he hold it? Yes, for now.
Amazing move from the Ferrari. Get himself one step closer towards scoring some points as Johnny Disco sets the fastest lap of the race so far, 128.2, as the DRS would be enabled in slick conditions, as Jay gets the time penalty, 3 seconds. Not good for these early stages.
Hello, I'm Hacker
No
under
DRS.
threat. Dangwoo looking for an inside door. Sorry to interrupt, and he looks for it, but these conditions really need to pull a really tight gap in order to pull an overtake. They look like they're getting heavier. Could just be the spray.
Rain looks pretty stable to me. It's definitely not going anywhere. But the people who, speaking of going places, the top 4 have absolutely bolted away from the rest of the field. 3.8 seconds is the gap between Combined Neutrum and Cattle King. So the top 4 don't have to worry about any of the drivers behind. They can just focus on their own race. And that's probably the best news for ZX Surf in this current situation.
Headers 1.5 on the rear of Johnny. That's just a tough gap if you're Dieg Surf watching that grow.
Yeah, 4 seconds now. Combined YouTuber struggling a little bit to keep up the pace.
Oh!
As Dangwoo has gotten on the curb and does very well to catch the slide in that Alpine. But now instead of being on the attack, he's now going to be on the defense from Wordad. And Wordad, we've seen the pace that he has in that Williams car, of course, qualifying inside that top 5. And getting a little bit worse for wear. Trying to do the last to question mark, trying to recover as best as he can. Lap 7 of 33 Striff, and the gap is around 1.6 seconds between our front 2.
Yeah, there is a lot of running left in this dynamic weather campaign. And Johnny Disco nearly 2 seconds over Henners. That is a huge gap if you're trying to hunt down a championship. Dieg Surf in 3rd. That is not where you want. He needs to get in front of Henners. He needs to minimize the
Cattle
damage.
King's made a mistake. Cattle King's made a mistake at turn 5. Striff, he's fallen not 1, not 2, but 3 places. And it looks like he's now down into 8th place. So it is Paula Brady in the AlphaTauri leading the second train of cars. That goes all the way from 5th down to 11th.
That's a huge train. That is a very dangerous train.
McLaren looking to the inside, had a little look at the inside of Cattle King, but just couldn't quite get on the brakes late enough. And couldn't get close enough to make that lunge. But the more that these guys fight, the further and further away. Well, at this rate, Hannah's DXF are combining it because Johnny is in a complete league of his own. As Combined YouTuber sets the fastest lap of the race, going 1/10 faster, 128.181. And here we go, Sidewinder eyeing up the sister team. Maybe a little bit of team orders from Dr. Helmet Marco to let the Red Bull through, but no such orders have been relayed to the AlphaTauri driver. She is doing a very, very nice job to hang on to that 5th place. A little bit of understeer from the Red Bull as well. And Cherry is just waiting for that opportunity to pounce,
I
as all these
genuinely
drivers are.
don't think you're going to see any team orders out of this AlphaTauri in this Red Bull duo right now. I think Paula, given how she's driven all season long, is going to fight to the bitter end for every position gain that she has, and she has 6 positions gained in this race thus far on this 8th lap, and it is a supercharged effort from her. Push ahead of Sidewinder right now, but things, battery and utilization for Sidewinder. No DRS, of course, in these conditions down the straight as you would normally have. But Paula leading a very serious train of cars here in Sidewinder, Cheery, Cattle King. Victor Diaz is looking nice and tight, of course, to Cattle King still. Not giving an inch. And then, meanwhile, you have a little bit of a train when you have Henners and the 2 Alfa Romeos 7 seconds ahead of Paula in this grid.
It's all about which driver makes the least amount of mistakes. Is who is able to keep the car pointing in the right direction, avoid slips from the rear tires, and who is just able to keep their cool, keep their calm, keep calm and collected. As Gorzieg has an issue at turn 14, gets a 10-second time penalty for taking the pre-2007 line. I believe that's when that chicane was introduced.
A little bit of a dated run through there, costing him a significant chunk of time.
Yeah, 10 seconds to be exact. Form of a penalty. But that gap is still growing at the front as well. 2.1 seconds now between Johnny Disco and Henners. And this is just playing straight into Johnny's hands. Just needs to keep it calm, keep it collected, keep doing what he's doing, and he will be on for a very important race win at these early stages of the race.
A little bit of separation forming here between Cattle King and Sherry, and that is critical if you're Victor Diaz to get now ahead of the Haas. And Sidewinder on the rear of Paula Brady. That might have cost him a touch of time. It looked like he might have misjudged his entry on the rear of the AlphaTauri, but he's recovered well. We have a yellow flag through Sector 2. Another issue for a Mercedes. It is Larkin.
It looks like he lost the rear coming out of turn 9 and overcorrected straight into the gravel trap. The car looks in one piece though, thankfully. But the tyres will be a little bit dirty. Or some nice rainwater to clear them up. Get the little stones of gravel out of the tread, and he'll be on his merry way. Although 8 to closer to 9 seconds behind Gorzieg.
What a train right now with Paula leading it. Sidewinder really threatening in that Red Bull. Wondering where that team order is, you mentioned. But I don't think it's coming. It's not coming. And he's going to have to do it all by himself. And in these conditions, it is quite a feat given they are so tight in pace right now.
Yeah, it's a pressure cooker, this midfield strip. It's an absolute pressure cooker. And we're only a third of the way through this race, not even a third of the way through this race. And already you're seeing drivers start to get a little bit desperate, having a little, peaks, just making themselves known in the tiny wing mirrors on these Formula One cars. Like, hello, I'm here. And if you make any mistake, I'm going to come and pounce for you. I'm going to come. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And that's exactly what Sidewinder is doing to Paula Brady at the moment. It's right on that rear diffuser.
This could
and there we
be
go. There's a mistake. There's the mistake. Paula's gone deep into the chicane. Look at the drive that the Red Bull gets out of the final corner here. Just needs to stay as close as he can now. It's all about that straight line speed, that slipstream overtake. And is it going to be enough? Is the overspeed enough for the Red Bull? Looks to the outside line and he's able to hold it around. This will be a great position, but Paula able to be just a little bit later on the brakes and keeps that position. So even with that tiny mistake, Sidewinder couldn't quite get past. And I think that's going to be a sign of things to come, Strip. It is going to be insanely difficult to make a move on track. But fortunately, we're getting closer and closer to that pit stop window, and undercuts in the intermediate conditions, something like a second a lap as the inters start to really get warm.
That was a solid defense from Paula there, taking that inside line, really shutting down an opportunity for the Red Bull. Cheery however, had an opportunity created out of that battle, and that has been his opportunity for 6th position. And now I think this has given Paula a little bit, just a touch of breathing space with Sidewinder in her rearview mirrors. Uh-oh. Oh, there goes Sidewinder straight into the wall.
Oh no, I told you, it's his pressure cooker. And Gorziak, even though he wasn't quite in that pressure cooker, he's out of the race as well. He's crashed at turns 7 and 8. But Sidewinder just trying to get a little bit too close, got a little bit too eager, a little bit too impatient on the throttle pedal and goes straight into the wall. But no safety car for Gorziak. And probably Red Bull not going to be happy. One driver out, the other driver into the pits prematurely with a front wing change in order. And will come back out in that 16th place. The pressure isn't over yet for Paulo Brady.
Yeah, I was going to mention
the
Cherry.
hometown hero.
Doing it live for the hometown crowd. Growing a little bit of a gap to Cattle King there as Victor Diaz has continued to put the pressure on the Haas.
And meanwhile, just a little checkup with our front four. Johnny has been able to pull yet another 7 tenths between himself and Hannah's. DXF has absolutely no way past this Williams at the moment. A combined YouTuber falling a little bit off the pace of his teammate, but not quite enough to be of any major concern. He still has a very healthy gap, about 10 seconds between himself and the train behind. But that pressure cooker has caught another victim. It is Deng Wu. Deng Wu was eyeing up Hello, I'm Hacker as well, down there a little bit further down the order, and has a new order for a new front wing as well as DX Surf, showing a little bit more pace, beats out the fastest lap time by about 700th of a second, Striff, 128.11.
Here comes Victor Diaz, battery and utilization right now, putting Cattle King under pressure as I do believe that is the Ferrari of Graz into the pit lane. Here goes now Victor Diaz looking to the inside. He goes a little bit later on the brakes. He goes through. He gets the move in the wet conditions. Victor Diaz takes 7th. Holy.
Just the amount of confidence that he had on the brakes. You could see he broke a little bit earlier at the usual braking point, and then he saw the gap and he just went for it. And just have that confidence in the tires and the brakes to be able to get the car stopped in time to not only just make the corner, but leave enough space for Cattle King as well. Absolutely fantastic driving from the McLaren thus far. Now Cattle King is under even more pressure, this time from the Aston Martin behind him.
Yeah, Victor Diaz really undoing him there. A lot of pressure for Cattle King. A big snap for the Haas, causing him a position coming through turn 8. And that is not what you want to be doing. And Jay Forsai now, who just recently lost a position, or at the very least was engaged for position, is going to have an opportunity very shortly to get potentially another position in this race. He has already grabbed 6.
The infill starting to spread out just a little bit. Closest gap is that fight for 5th, as well as that fight for 12th place as well. And it looks like Cherry. I don't know if he's close enough. He's trying. You can see that green overtake on the onboard. He's using all that he can. Jay Fasai into the pit lane. We are getting to that pit stop window as we edge closer and closer to the halfway point of this race. But Paula, a little bit shaky through the long right-hander of turn 3, and Cherry is going to use that opportunity to close right back up to that Honda rear wing, but can't quite get close enough. Or can he, Striff?
It's tight. It's a good exit. Sidewinder at 27.389. That's on the fresh tires, Mick, and that's going to be an indicator to these lead racers.
Yeah, but the problem with pitting too early as well is that you can have no tires at the end of the race. But it's that you know, that dilemma between trying to have track position and being sure that you have some tires left to fight with at the end of the race should you come under pressure. And speaking of pressure, Paula going a little bit deep at turn 10. Cherry at 4 tenths in it.
Victor's here.
Getting ever closer.
Victor Diaz lurking ever so carefully now. Paula Brady.
Oh, absolutely, like, clobbers the curb, though, doesn't McLaren. Gonna have to wait just one more lap. But there we go. We have a few responders to that rapid time set by the Red Bull of Sidewinder. Helm Hacker goes into the pit lane, trying to cover off that undercut. But now this fight at the front actually has got a little bit more interesting as we approach that pit stop window. If the XF gets a really good undercut on Hennes, that could be the track position that he needs, I should say, to get ahead of the Williams and then start doing whatever he can to chase down that rapid McLaren. As the Sidewinder is going faster yet again. He's lapping around a second to nearly a second and a half faster than the leaders at the moment. And I think that's the call. That's the go-ahead to try and pit. DXF has signaled to the pit crew that he is coming in at the end of this lap. So what do these 4 leaders do, Striff? We'll find out in a few seconds' time.
Well, Combine has the same indicator at the very least as far as my screen is concerned, and that may or may not just be that the pit window is open. But let's take a look and see here. Johnny Disco, he's staying out. Henners, what does he do? He stays out. Dieg Surf out. Combined staying out. And Paula Brady, well, she'll be next to come through and across, but none of those front end leaders are coming in just yet. Paula Brady in 5th position. What's the call? The call is to stay out here. Wow. Very interesting race dynamic right now as Sidewinder continues to lap very quick in this race.
I really don't agree with the decision that either Alfa Romeos have taken, to be honest, because DX is losing time, even if it's just a little bit, to his championship rival. Hennes has been able to close the gap just a little bit, thanks to the utilization of that ERS. But even still, like, you need to get that track position to have any sort of chance to try and close that gap, because you might have the raw pace, but stuck behind this Williams, we'll never know.
Sidewinder, Jay Forsai engaged in battle right now as those intermediates really paying off for Sidewinder versus Jay Forsai right now. Jay Forsai holding on to 6 seconds in penalties. These conditions may not be the most ideal for him, but he is, of course, in a race where he's gained some positions. He's up 2. We saw him up a few more earlier on.
Okay, round 2 for the leaders, Striff. Hennes is coming in. Hennes is coming in, so DX has missed his undercut opportunity. He now has to try and overcut Hennes, and we've seen the pace on those fresh inserts. That is going to be a tough ask for our championship leader, but he's the championship leader for a reason, Striff. Let's see if he's able to prove it on this crucial in-lap.
If I was combined, I pit there if Dieg Surf doesn't, but he didn't either, which means he extends even further. Paula now under threat from Cherry. Is this the opportunity for the hometown Spaniard? Of course, Paula Brady with a push off to that inside gradual come back into that racing line just to make sure that door stays shut. Right now, Cherry looking for a way to find rotation through turn 3 to make as much of an opportunity as he can. There just isn't anything there, as now Jay Forsai picks up again. Another 3 seconds now. That's 9 for him. Raz through on Victor Diaz. That is now 9th position for Graz, ahead of Victor, who is on the fresh tires.
Yeah, I'm just watching Hennes. Crucially for Hennes, he has clean air on his outlap, which is probably not what you're wanting to hear if you're a DX surfer or an Alfa Romeo fan. He had a little slip up through turn 4, maybe lost a little bit of time there, but everywhere else has been absolutely exceptional from the Williams this lap so far. And he's using that ERS as well. And surely they don't stay out yet again.
That's a mistake.
What are they waiting for?
That's a mistake. Henners. Well, let's take a look at the gap. The gap right now from Henners to Johnny Disco is 23.5. Let's take a look at what it is when we see Johnny Disco come into the pit lane. That is so critical. Paula Brady, Cheery, LAS1, they are all in. They have all come in. That entire train is in.
And it was obvious that DX Surf was getting held up by Henners because he set a personal best lap on that last lap, 127.7 for our championship leader. But the gap is just extending. And Johnny is not, he hasn't needed to use any of his ERS yet. And he's able to just keep going and going and going until those tires eventually hit the drop off.
Oh, look at this. Victor Diaz, Paul Brady, wheel to wheel as we come through turns 1 and 2. Right now, this fight has really gotten spicy. Victor Diaz, 6th position for him. Graz gets 5th. What an undercut between the Ferrari and the McLaren, and now the AlphaTauri. They're all engaged. The train's gotten even larger.
Yeah, it's getting really, really hot for that. Those midfield places. Meanwhile, Henry is 7/10 up on his personal best. 7/10. Johnny finally comes into the pits. DX follows him. Combine is going to have to stay out yet again. And at this pace, Henners,
I think he's leading this
might even
race.
put Johnny under some pressure.
I think he's leading this race in a second. Gonna be close. It's gonna be very close. Johnny's on the way out. Henners is coming around the final turn. Johnny will stay out and lead of this, but Dieg Surf, he's in trouble.
26-7. 26-7. And he flies by DX Surf. But not quite close enough. He closed the gap by 2 seconds. Actually scratched that 2.5 seconds to Johnny Disco.
That's
with
massive.
that undercut.
Massive for Henry. Absolutely critical undercut there. He really needs to push it with the hot rubber.
Yeah, I'm still baffled at the decision to stay out, because even if Henry's tires do drop off towards the end of the race, he's going to have that pace, and it's so hard to overtake around here anyway. And with the low fuel burn, the tires will feel better as they do at the end of the first stint. I just don't get it. I just don't get it at one single bit striff.
Graz leading a major train right now. Victor Diaz, Paula Brady, Cheery, LAS1 all in close formation on the rear of the Ferrari for 5th position. I would not want to be Graz right now leading a train like this. Cheery looking at Paula Brady, looking at the outside. That wasn't on.
Lap 20 of 33. So we are well and truly past the halfway point as combined. The last driver to make a pit stop on this grid makes his final stop and is going to comfortably come out in 4th place, but he's lost a lot of time from those undercuts, just staying out those extra 2-3 laps, more than he probably should have. We have a yellow flag in the final sector. There's Sidewinder getting a little bit sideways, able to keep the car on the road, but now is under a lot of pressure from the Asimon behind. And look at this, it's now a drag race. Mercedes power versus Honda power. Which car has the lower aero? It looks pretty even to me. Maybe slightly at the edge of Sidewinder, but with the inside line, Halamaka has to back out of that one. And Jay Fasai getting ever closer to this battle for 13th place, Striff.
So much great action unfolding here on the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya right now, here for the Spanish Grand Prix. If you're just joining us, this is the 12th of 15 rounds of Season 5 racing. My name's Striffium, here from Canada. Joining me from Australia, my good friend Mikau, and of course, Johnny Disco has been leading this race since it began out in front. He has led every lap of the race.
And meanwhile, DX Surf showing that pace that he's got. He's been able to close that gap by close to a second without using a whole lot of his battery. Henners still using a little bit as well. And there we go. There's that pace from the championship leader. The fast lap 126.5 is a yellow flag. That's the other Mercedes of Captain Miner now finding the gravel yet again. So Mercedes, it's a day to forget for the Silver Arrows. My goodness me. And as Captain struggling to get the car back onto the asphalt. It does so eventually, but some 8 seconds behind. Actually, no, still finding the gravel trap.
Very unfortunate to see that happen for, as you mentioned, the Silver Arrows, who have had a very up and down day.
Looks so promising in qualifying. Just haven't been able to adapt to the tricky conditions out there on track. And now DX Surf so close to getting to that slipstream range, around 0.6 of a second, to really feel the effects of Henna's in front, but also be affected by that dirty air. Even though it may not be as much as the real life, it's still, you can really feel it when you're the car following, especially through this technical final section of the track.
Victor Diaz still with Graz as Paula Brady just dropping out of that 1 second window. Wordad picks up 3 seconds now. That is, I do believe, 6 seconds for him. 5 drivers in the penalty club right now. They are Jay Forsyth, Dangwoo, Larkin, Captain Minor, and the before mentioned Wordad.
Here we go. I have my eyes glued to this battle between Hennes and DX Surf, because if DX Surf is able to get past Hennes at any point, he's shown that he has the pace in the rain to really put Johnny under some real pressure. Honestly, the only real threat that Johnny would have felt all race long.
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of pressure up there for the McLaren. Mind you, I will say Hanners, having made it into that second position ahead of Diego Surf early on, we didn't see an opportunity for Diego Surf to really push it out in front of Hanners. Hanners always with a little bit of a defensive opportunity, and he's been showing that throughout this race, that second might very well be where he finishes, but not if Diego Surf has anything to say about where he qualified or anything to say about his position in the standings right now as leader. He needs to hunt down Johnny. And right now, the gap to Johnny is 3.3.
Yeah, every point is going to be crucial between these two as we head towards Austria. I believe Austria is the next round in this championship, a fan favorite and one that can be equally as challenging to overtake on in a DRS train. But here we go, DX Surf gets within that 5/10 gap of Hennes, but can't seem to get any closer, but he needs to. But speaking of getting closer, look at this for the hometown hero. Cheery all over the back of Paula Brady. Paula goes to the inside yet again. Is the straight line speed there for the Alpine? The Spaniard not quite close enough. Paula goes a little bit deep, is able to get the car stopped in time, but we've seen this switchback once before. Didn't quite work out for Cherry. Couldn't get on the power, but now on fresher tires. Oh my goodness, look at the drive, but it's not going to be quite enough to get past the AlphaTauri.
That inside line into turn 1, Mick. I love it. It's my favorite sweet spot here around this circuit. I have to say, Paula Brady has found it very well. It is solid in defense for any overtake coming into that turn. Cherry getting a touch of a squeeze coming out of that AlphaTauri, 3 into turn 1. And of course, Paula Brady, she had to run through the turn. A very solid defense there.
They can't forget about LAS1 as well. In P9 right behind them, 2 tenths, 3 tenths is the gap between those two. Meanwhile, at the front of things, the X-Surf, he's another 1/2 tenth closer that last lap. And it's ever shrinking, ever diminishing as that gap goes down to 3 tenths now, 3.5 tenths going into the first braking zone of the lap. And he's just slowly but surely whistling away at that gap, but he needs to get past basically as soon as he can. Any kind of half opportunity that he gets, if he wants to have any shot of trying to catch Johnny Disco, because he's running out of laps to do so.
Speaking of running out of laps, we got Victor Diaz hunting down grass to really put a charge through the power unit this lap around as the battery was in full utilization down the main straight. Fury not close enough to Paula Brady this time through into turn 1 to make an opportunistic move. LAS1, however, holding well with Cheery. This train on the rear of Paula, 3 cars strong. Cattle King, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 in around that final point battle with between Wordad. Of course, Wordad holding onto a penalty with Sidewinder within 1 second right now.
It seems like...
Oh, that is not what you want to do if you're Paula Brady and you have 2 cars within 3 seconds of you at all.
Well, 2 cars within 1 second of you.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, still easily on for that P9 place, 4 seconds of the gap between LS1 and Cattle King. But yeah, I mean, the laps are continuing to tick down. Johnny Disco now starting to extend that gap once again at the front now. 3.3 seconds, 3/10 extended on that previous lap to the Williams car. And DX Surf has fallen back. He has fallen back to 8/10. It was around 3/10 a lap ago, but now back to 8/10 drift. So he needs to just put Henry under as much pressure as humanly possible to try and force any kind of error, just anything to have even a sliver of hope to try and even just get this runner-up spot and minimize the damage.
25 at 33, coming down to the wire, as you've said, Mikal. What a race it's been.
Still all to play for a late safety car at this stage of the race. Will put a lot of these drivers in a tough spot. Because do you go for that track position, or do you go for another set of fresh intermediates that are going to be close to a second faster yet again?
Dig Surf just so close to Henner's. At what point does he have an opportunity for a move? He's got 100% battery.
He needs to be within 3/10 of Henner's coming out of that last corner. That's the gap that he needs to even have a half look at getting past this Williams. He needs to really focus. Oh, never mind. Scratch that, throw that completely out the window.
In a championship
That's it. That's game,
fight.
set, match. That is game, set, and match. Fortunately, he has a 6.6 second gap to his teammate behind. But if there was a late safety car now, he wouldn't just be losing a podium place. He'd be losing a whole lot more than that, Striff.
Well, given Henner's and his accumulation of penalties throughout the course of this season, at the very least in-game, on track, in his exceeding of limits and or corner cutting through multiple warnings, etc. Hang on, DX Surf, hang on.
And it isn't over yet, although it's fair to say, I think now, that there is no way that Johnny is giving up this race win.
I don't
Absolutely
think it's.
No way
I
at
don't
all.
think. I don't think it's in question for Johnny to lose this win. However, there is still some racing to do to win. Come first. First, you have to finish, and of course, we have Henner's. If he takes a penalty, him and the Egg Surf are just right back in it.
Yeah, just looking at a few of the battles a little bit further down the grid, the closest gap on track at the moment is 3/10 in this fight for P11. Of course, Sidewinder should have word out on penalties. Word out with 6, Sidewinder with 3. But, you know, you still want to get past all the cars that you can on track. I mean, it's bragging rights. I always bring it up when I cast with you, Striff. About that bragging rights, even if there's no points on offer.
Oh yeah. You want to be ahead on track. You want to be out in front of your rivals. You want to be... Oh, word out with a big snap out of that final turn. Just gives Sidewinder a massive run through into 11th position now.
Yeah, the things starting to become a lot more tame at the front of things. The gap is now blown out to around 9/10 between Henner's and DX Surf. As well as combined actually is starting to close in. 5.6 seconds is now the gap. It was around 6.7. So combined really flying, trying to close up that gap as much as he can to maybe even steal that podium away from his teammate, no less.
Graz, Victor Diaz up 9 positions each in this race, the Ferrari and McLaren, and as we say it, there is a car in the pit lane. That is Captain Miner, and he has retired it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to see, but honestly, don't blame him. It's been a tough one. After that really nice qualifying, it just seemed to all go pear-shaped from there. The safety car couldn't save him, unfortunately.
We just saw LAS1 dip his left tires over the curb just too much and pick up 3 seconds.
Actually, that Mercedes is coming back on the
Yeah,
track,
I
right
see
in the
that.
path of Perez and Victor Diaz. This could get feisty. Well, Emerald veterans will remember back to Fubar and Bitto. couple of seasons to go.
Fiddle will never forget
Also-
that as long as he lives.
Yeah, oh, it comes right back on towards the racing line. The Cattle King now next to trying to get past the Mercedes, and there we go. It was off to the left-hand side to the Marshall Post in the second sector, Striff.
I'm happy to say he'll never forget that as well because recorded.
Yeah, that was a very controversial day in the stewarding office. I do remember that one. It's a very tough one. But nevertheless, that was the past. We're now jumping back to the present. And lap 29 of 33, and DXF still can't find any way past this Williams, even as just a morale boost. At this point, he's just seen that Sofina win the entire race and hasn't had a single opportunity to really, well, even mount a challenge.
Well, he had the opposite of a
Williams.
morale boost in the form of that penalty a few laps ago. And I have to say, I admire the fact that he's been able to hold so well after having taken that penalty. You can, oh my, a VSC has been deployed, and as a result of what?
That'd be Jay Fasai. He has lost his front wing. His entire front wing is sitting on the infield between turns 13 and 14. Unfortunately, it should be on the car. And Deng Wu, a drive-through penalty. He's in 16th anyway. Probably doesn't make too much of a difference, but that not going to look great on his record. The longer this virtual safety car stays out, the more these drivers are able to preserve the life in those tires. Of course, they are getting a little bit worse for wear at this stage of the race. Also save up a little bit more of that battery. Everyone should be close to 100%. At least in our top three. Combined YouTuber sitting around 60% at the moment, but he's just cruising. Honestly, Combined actually probably has a pit stop gap if this virtual safety car stays out much longer to get on a fresh set of intermediate tires and take away that fastest lap. If he so wants to. Probably team orders will come in from there, as it is his teammate that holds on to that fastest lap at the moment. But here we go. VSC has been lifted. Green flag running. No drive-throughs on the restart. Just that one from Deng Wu from speeding under the virtual safety car while it was deployed. So probably the only consolation at this rate is that the DXF still does have that fastest lap. But with Deng Wu, sorry, correction, that'd be Jay Fasai on those fresh intermediate tires. Might be under threat.
Yeah, Jay Fasai taking a point away from Diego Surf, not good for his championship, considering Johnny Disco is 2 positions ahead of him.
So right now, Johnny is gaining 9 points over Diego Surf, and that would cut the gap down to 15 going into the next round. So it's still all to play for. Meanwhile, we still have this train forming behind Paula Brady. Chiri, the only one without a penalty. So we still have 4 laps to go in this one, Striff. Anything can happen. And oftentimes it usually does.
Usually does, absolutely. Victor Diaz on the rear of Graz, and this has been a very long battle between the McLaren and Ferrari pair. Saw them come out just out in fighting with Paula Brady, and now the gap between Victor and Paula is about 3 seconds. Shy of 3 seconds, we'll say, with Fury having been putting the pressure on. Her dad picking up another 3 seconds.
Yeah, down to 14th. Not exactly ideal. So we come into the last 3 laps of this campaign. No real movements to speak of, because no one can really get close enough to make an on-track pass. We've seen a couple throughout the race. That one from Victor Diaz was absolutely amazing. I believe that was against Cattle King from memory. Up the inside of turn 1.
I think so.
Meanwhile, in the fight for P2 on track, aside from penalties. I think this is the closest that DX has been in the entirety of this race. As Deng Wu takes away that fastest lap point. So forget it, closing the gap to 15 points, now closing to 14 at this rate. But this is how close that DXF should have been this entire time, but just can't get them right out of the chicane as Johnny Disco takes the fastest lap.
That is
critical. Make that 13 point strip.
That is absolutely critical to Johnny Disco's championship run. Every point counts. You mentioned it earlier.
Well, it's just like between Max and Lewis in the real life championship. Every point it's going to come down to the final race in Brazil. It really is.
After today, I have absolutely no doubt. Absolutely none. Dang, 3-second time penalty for him after having secured that fastest lap that Johnny Disco swiped away from him in rapid succession. Up 32 of 33 now that we are on. It was lap 31. Johnny Disco set his fastest lap of the race. He did so on a 11 lap old set of intermediate compound tires. The 26.238 was the run.
If I was Johnny, I'd just charge up and go again. Looks like that's what he's doing. As long as he doesn't bin it. Should be an easy 25 points. Could be 26. DXF pushing, but DXF just can't get close enough to this Williams. I've said it all race long. Just can't get close enough through that final chicane. He's a little bit closer on this occasion, but a little snap through the final corner, turn 16, and that's all she wrote. I don't think he's even going to get fastest lap with the dirty air effect from this Williams.
This has really been a stellar campaign for Johnny Disco.
He hasn't put a tire wrong.
No, he absolutely hasn't. And you look at how he went through qualifying, Mika. We're talking about our pole sitter here. Not only has he taken pole, he has led every single lap of this race, and he has the fastest lap, and he is about to take the race win here on lap 33 of 33 in Spain.
Speaking of, he was 1 millisecond down on his previous best through the first sector. He's trying to extend that. Maybe try and get into the 1 minute 26. No, he's a 10th down through the middle sector. It's a yellow flag. That's Cattle King throwing away his chance of points for Haas. Very unfortunate for him. But all eyes on this McLaren, as what a drive we have witnessed here tonight, Striff. What a drive from Johnny Disco. The drive that he needed as he comes through the final few corners. Has that overtake mode on. Is he pushing for that fast lap? I'm not entirely sure. But here we go through the final corner. It is Johnny Disco as he weaves across the line to take the full 26 points as it stands from Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Hennes will take runner-up spot ahead of DX Surf, who will have to settle for that final podium place. Combined YouTuber will come across the line to finish in 4th. And a long way back, there is still this fight between Graz and Victor Diaz.
What a wild race this has been. Victor Diaz now hunting down Graz 3 out of the final turn. But it's not going to be enough. Graz taking that 5th position in this race. Victor crossing 6th here as Paula will cross the grid 7th, dropping back to 8th. LAS1 9th, Sidewinder in 10th. And it was Cattle King just outside of the points in 11th. LM Hacker not
Cattle
too
King
far
will
behind.
be kicking himself. Cattle King will be kicking himself with that one. A spin on the last lap, costing the team their only points this race, of course, after Gozieg's unfortunate retirement. But there we go. Johnny Disco.
What a drive.
The game isn't over. It isn't over yet. And we head to Austria next week with a 14, oh, it was now 13 point gap at the top of things.
That is what you love to see, is just tight separation in the standings. What a race for Johnny Disco. Qualified pole position, led every lap of the race, took fastest lap of the race, and you know what, Mikau, he just about, well, Not just about. He won the damn race, and well, what a drive it was from him.
I mean, there was absolutely no doubt after Hennes got past that Johnny was able to just keep his cool and that fastest lap to the reward of his raw pace. DX, he's going to have nightmares of that Safina rear wing, I'm telling you now. Because
Absolutely.
that could honestly this could be the race that defines the championship, Striff.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, that was a stellar drive from him, and that could be the turning point in the scale for Johnny Disco. What a race for him. What a carry of momentum for him from that qualifying to win this one. Enters from 4th to 2nd in the end, and it was Diego Surf. Started on that front row. He drops back 1 slot in the end after, well, a very, very shaky start, to say the least, in this grid, considering we saw one of the Red Bulls retire from the race before we got to turn 1. But with that said, we're going to take a look and see if we have any interviews before we wrap things up and hopefully get everybody all set and ready to go.
Well, we have our first and second man in the cool down room. But yeah, just an amazing, amazing race. And we're joined now by Hennes. Hennes, just walk us through that race start, mate, because that's all it was. That was all your race, to be honest. How was that race start and those opening few laps in those tricky conditions?
I was thankful I had a good start. I was quite annoyed when the safety car came out. Even the VSC, I was like, oh, that's the end of that then. Because I was hoping to get Johnny around turn 4, like in the inside. Because I had a good speed, and then just the safety car came out. I was like, oh, well, that's the end of that then.
Well, it was a very, very solid drive for you, starting 4th position, gaining 2 positions pretty well instantly. You've shown stellar driving in the rain so far this entire season, this grid having seen more rain than any other division in the MRL this season. Just talk us through what's it been like to have to race through all the rain and to be able to come through after all that to take a podium here in round 2, not 2, round 12.
I tell you what, Gauzy's a myth. He's a bad omen, to be fair, because he said if it rains, I'll be annoyed. This is rain, and we will win the VC, raging at each other because Gauzy was the host. So Waffle host next round, just to see if it mixes things up a bit. But yeah, I had a good race in the wet. It was a good battle between me and Jake Surf. I luckily kept him at bay for most of the race.
Well, it was definitely a solid drive from you. Of course, next week we go to Austria. How are you feeling ahead for the next round?
I'm not too sure about Austria, really. I haven't really drove a lot around there. But we'll see. See how things goes.
Well, congratulations, Henners, and of course, again, good to see you on the podium, and good luck next week for round 13.
Thank you. Cheers.
All right, that was Henners, ladies and gentlemen, our 2nd position finisher. Next up, we are going to jump into an interview with none other than our race winner, Mr. Johnny Disco. Welcome, Johnny, to the commentary booth once again, of course, and welcome with you had a stellar campaign in Spain. Pole position, fastest lap, all laps of the race led, and the race win. How are you feeling?
I'm so glad I got that win. I knew I'm gonna need it for this championship fight. It's pretty vital for the championship, I think.
Yeah, it could very well be a tipping point. Mikhail mentioned it. It could be a momentum carrying point. It could be a great many things. That fastest lap coming through on lap, I think it was 31. Very solid. I did not see that coming after we saw the fresh tire switches coming out of some of these racers. How critical was that fastest lap for you when you got that? Just that additional point.
Yeah, I would take. I was pretty much doing hot laps the whole time. I'd wait a lap and then go again for another hot lap, and wait a lap and do it again. It's pretty much doing that the whole race, trying to get the fastest lap.
Well, it definitely worked out in the end. Of course, Mikhail, any questions for Johnny after a superlative drive?
I just have one for you, Johnny. The gap now is between yourself and DXServe is 13 points going into Austria. So are we going to see you on that top step again next week and really bring the fight to the Alfa Romeo, who has been really dominant throughout at least the opening half of the season?
Yeah, I hope so. Austria is one of my favorite tracks, so hopefully I can pack a punch and bring in it.
We know it's going to be a very intense fight between the two of you. And you can't count out Vlad Pitin. He had a very unfortunate start of things. He is out of the championship fight mathematically, but you're still going to have to watch your back for that flying Red Bull as well. Well, congratulations, Johnny. Enjoy this race victory, and we'll see you next week in Spielberg.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up our coverage of the Americas Tier 2 division. Of course, my name is Trifium, and I would just like to extend a massive thank you to Mr. Mikow. Thank you, sir, for joining me for this Americas Tier 2 broadcast. What a fantastic broadcast it was with you. For a spectacular race, of course. Anything from you before we wrap things up ahead of tomorrow's Tier 3 racing action here on the channel?
No, just if you haven't already, be sure to hit the follow button and that notification bell so you're notified every time Misfits Racing League goes live. Also join the Discord friendly community of racers all trying to improve the game. And there'll be a lot of social races, I suspect, of the new Jeddah circuit, which was just released a few hours ago. So keep your eyes out for that. And of course, be sure to tune in at 3 p.m. Eastern for Tier 3. It's going to be a wild, wild ride of Spain yet to come.
Take care, everybody, and have a fantastic and great evening.